Welcome to the Grand Design Series for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. We're picking up on the 28th of February 1993, which is about 5-6 months on from the end of the last part, simply because I wanted to play on to try and make some progress in our new logistics area. The title of this video is 3 Ways to Reduce Happiness. And the reason for that is I've had a bit of a rough winter, and by pure coincidence, I've got 3 scenarios of happiness falling, and that fits into a comment I got one of my earlier videos where it was a kind of quasi tutorial series for new players, and what the comment said is the game is very difficult to learn, and the tutorials never seem to explain all the detail about what the interactions are between certain key parameters of the game, as particularly happiness and loyalty. And that is particularly very true because unlike many other city building games, there are a lot of subtle interactions which can get you into trouble very, very quickly. And of course, one of the biggest one is when happiness falls, because that can result in a cascade error, which can result in a large amount of loss of population. And by sheer coincidences, I've got 3 scenarios which gives me a opportunity to talk about those levels of interaction. But before we get into that, as I say, as usual, a big thank you for all your comments and feedback. Now, I did get another comment about the use of containers. Now, I'm going to be completely upfront. I've very rarely ever used containers in this game, mainly because they always seem to be more trouble than it's worth. But that comment has kind of triggered my interest in the use of containers. So maybe going forward, if I can find a scenario, we might be able to take a look at using containers. As far as I can gather, they're mainly used for exports. And then there's also, I got a comment about the setup of this logistics center here. And I'll be completely upfront, I'm still a little bit nervous about that. And I've gone a little bit over the top by simply, like, I've added another rail distribution office up here. Mainly because what I want to do is a bit of experimentation about what is the best way to run a logistics center. So in some ways, these distribution offices up here may replace some of my older ones while I restructure. So that's the reason why this is gone a little bit overpowered. The other thing I've done here is, if you watch the previous video, is I've tidied up the round connections here a little bit. I've also put in a crop hopper here, simply because up here I've how can you put it? I've got this grain storage I brought in to support the production of chemicals, but it's not being used. So I think what I'm going to be doing is this port is a little bit quicker than the other option I've got down on the other side of the map. So I thought, right, I'm going to want to utilize this by actually sending these crops back down to the central area, and then that can support my farming industry, or alternatively go to areas where we might need crops. Now, the other area I was working on in the last part was in this area, and I've done a little bit of work in this by putting in the heating plant, because once I've talked about happiness, I want to start working and planning this area here. Now, one thing I have done is I've brought in the ability to deliver coal into here. Not so much with respect to supplying coal to the aluminium processing, but mainly to guarantee the heating plant, because we're going to need 2 heating plants here. Also, I did a bit of a quick kind of calculation about the power drain from this, what we needed for this, especially with a big city and a metro. So what I've done is I've brought the coal into here, which will then go up to here, and what I've also done is I've put a power takeoff here, so that should we need it, and there's a very real possibility that we will need it, I will be able to build a coal-powered power station up here. And the idea will be is this power station will then add extra additional generation capacity to this area. The other thing I have done is I've kind of looked at my nuclear power station. I won't demonstrate it just yet because I want the game to stay on pause for the moment for a reason which will become apparent. But I've been checking these power lines, and some of these power lines are now getting fairly close to kind of maximum. I wouldn't say they're overloaded, but they are in. Some of them are almost permanently in the yellow now, as the industries ramp up here. So there's a possibility. I don't think, how many more connections have I got here? Oops. See, we've got 2 more connections here, but push comes to shove, I can shut down the export market. So basically, I've got 3 more 18 megawatt power lines, but I want to keep 1 spare just in case an area does get overloaded. So that out of the way, let's just get down to what I was talking about in relation to the title. And I'm going to start up here because, as I previously mentioned, I've got 3 scenarios where happiness can fall. Now, if I put on the happiness overlay, now as you can see here, that the happiness is falling, but it's not crashing. It's just kind of doggedly stuck around 64, 53%, 67%. And in this area, it's down 67%. And that's what's pulled down my average happiness up here. And if I look in here, I know you guys can't see it, but what I've got here is 24,400 people affected by crime. And if I switch now to the actual crime here, what you will see is I've got 5% crime, I've got 12% crime, and I've got right across the board here 5-6% crime, 8% over here. So what I've got in this town here is a massive crime wave. Now, it's important to understand that crime has a massive effect on happiness. So, like, for example, we got 12% crime here. If I go back to here, you'll see that we got 65% happiness. So there is a direct correlation between levels of crime in individual blocks. And of course, what that means is, and this is where some of the subtlety of the game comes into, because you could start off up here looking at your industry up here and wondering why you're not getting the productions that you expect. Because if I flip to productivity, which is in here, I've got to let the game run a bit. What you'll see is that you got 8%, 18, that's up to 82%. But what you can find is you'll have an area like this, and you'll be thinking, well, why have I got such low productivity? Why can't I get this to 100% productivity? And the reason is that the fact is that the crime rate is dragging down the happiness, and then that is going to affect your overall productivity. And of course, the other problem that will happen, and this is what's already happening here, is the fact that if you've got a high crime rate, if I come into over here, what you will see is that last year I had 1,195 unexamined crimes, and you can see here I've got a massive list of. So when you get into this scenario, that this crime rate is never going to be fixed by the police station, because of course the people in this police station will also have a lower productivity as well, though these guys have got 95%, 92%, so they're there working. So what I've done is I've built or planned in a second police station, but there's a chance I might even need a third. But there's also another consequence of this, because this is overloaded and people are escaping. If I come down to the south of the map, and this is how the chain reaction goes, because down here at the moment you'll see that the crime rate is relatively low, but we've got 82% here, we've got 61%. Now these are distortions because of the small number of people in here. We've probably got somebody here who's a real crook. Yeah, we've got 8% there. But what the consequence of that is, in fact, if I probably come up to here, there's I've got to find it. Come on. No, well, we can come over here. You'll see now court system is getting overloaded as well. Now, bearing in mind that if I go to the entire map, switch to the entire map, and I find going to go to buildings, entire map, come here, and what we got here, if I find courthouses, at the moment I've got 4 courthouses. I've got 3 historic courthouses and 1 major one, which is over here. And you can see the major one is also overloaded. And the problem is that these will are being overloaded partly because of the fact that the rising crime rate, and this is what can happen, is that the crime rate will slowly develop over this area here. So again, if I go back to here and pick up the crime rate, you can see the crime rate here is only 3%, but it will start to affect, because what happens is that the people who are not tried and escape disappear back into the community, and then that causes the growth of your crime rate. So what I want to do, I think I'm going to try and split the load here. I think we've got capacity here. I'm going to put a courthouse in here. So we're going to put a full-size courthouse in here. I think I've got the unemployment. Let me just check. Is that something else I need to do? Yeah, we've got plenty of unemployment. In fact, we've got quite a lot of unemployment down here. So if I could get a courthouse here, somewhere in this area, that would be even better. Because this is the area, although we got lots of unemployment here as well. See if we can get a courthouse, and we're going to use I don't want a police station or a courthouse. Can't get it there because it's, I mean, ideally I'd like it down here, but courthouses are going to be a pretty big building. Okay, so it looks like we're not going to get it in this area, so we are going to have to put it, maybe we could put it over here. I'm sorry, we've probably got power cables over here. No, I think we're going to have to put it here because we do need to have it fully staffed. I think what I might have to do is put a kind of interior bus service in here or something to be able to get this going. So we're going to get you in like this, as close in, and then we're going to put in I think we're just going to connect to a mud road because this doesn't have any vehicles as such that go in and out. But what it does have, it's going to need is a footpath connection. The same there. Maybe we'll go like that. If I show you here, that should draw from this area. And of course, we're going to need to have this built ASAP. What I will do is plan in a second courthouse. That's what we could do. Put one there because we still got a large hike in population. So I think, and probably the best way to think of it is that when you're planning courthouses, especially when your economy is growing quite big or quite rapidly, is to possibly, yeah, I think we'll put a second courthouse up here, is to have overcapacity, not undercapacity. Actually, that's quite nice. Actually, we can tuck you on this corner here. And of course, if you're going to create a surge of, how can you put it? If you're going to create a surge of prosecutions, you're going to need to make sure that you've got the thing. Okay, we're probably going to need to put you there. Those. Cancel that. You have to go full on asphalt. And I think it'd be nice if I could get a footpath through there. Put one there, one there. I think this one doesn't need to be quite so important, but we are gonna get that one. But we are gonna put this as high priority. We'll build this, and then what that will do will give us a long-term legal system. So that is the first way to destroy happiness. It's a bit very insidious. It's very slow. It won't completely destroy, even if your crime rate gets very high, like it is in this area, and you're not trying people. It won't completely destroy your happiness, but it will give you such problems with productivity And of course, you've got to remember is when productivity falls and you've got people with low happiness, that also reduces the capabilities of your sellers. If so at the moment, like we've got people in here with 68, 69%. So if your happiness falls too low, then your food starts to degenerate. Now there's an example of that. This is going to be the second example of how to destroy happiness, and this is probably even one of the really subtle ones which can catch you out. We'll just get rid of go back to happiness, and what you'll see here is the happiness has crashed even really quickly here, and there's immediate reaction to say, oh, there's something wrong here. But what's actually happening is this. Now what this is the fact that the single store in this place is in here is now under maintenance. It's under wear and tear, and what you see here is that the productivity of this store has dropped to 70%. And of course what that means is that if I let the game run now, this is the reason why I want the game was on pause. If I let the game run fairly quickly, what you will see now is because the productivity is dropped, because this is being maintained, you can see now that some people cannot get served. So while this shop is big enough to support this community here in normal circumstances, what's happened now is people don't get served. That means if we come across to here, you'll see in here we've now got 122 citizens who can't get food. Now when citizens can't get food, that is a big deal. This is where your happiness will crash very, very quickly, because citizens who don't get food, and if I go back up to here, what you see is I've got 2,091. I'm aware that you can't read it. People who are starving. So what happens is these people are now suffering from a food shortage. They're getting unhappy. Productivity is dropping, and this is where you get the beginnings of a cascade error, because what you've got here is you've got a store running at 70%, now having servers in here who've got a low happiness, which means that their average productivity is 53%. So if I look in here, I'm just looking through it again, I'm aware that you can't see it, but their productivity now is 53%, 60%. So not only is the store less productive, but the people working in there are less productive as well. Now this is going to have a consequence. Now to give you a bit more of a background to this, part of the problem why this is hung around a little bit is the fact that this here, they actually need boards, and there is no boards being delivered to here. And now I have fixed that off camera, but because this needed boards, this took a lot longer to fix than it should have done. If it had been fixed relatively quickly, and again this comes down to your overall efficiency of your economy, if this gets fixed relatively quickly, what that will mean is that this will then get repaired. So you can see now this has been repaired, right? So the helicopters swooped in here, they've repaired it, but what you'll see now is that we're still down. This will take time to fix, but of course, and this is where the subtle interactions of this game start to come into effect, because the damage was done by the fact that this needed to be repaired, but now to get this back so everyone can get served is the fact that you need to build up the happiness. But to build up the happiness, you've got to serve people. That's a catch-22 situation. Now I could let it run for a very long time, but there's only a matter of time before this could happen again. So what I want to do, see, getting the happiness is too low. It's over here, it's 44%. But what I want to do is put in a long-term solution. Now the long-term solution is to put in a second store. And this is the reason why that when you're planning your towns, it doesn't pay to min-max, and also you need contingency if you're going to do it. Because you can see here the average happiness here is 40%, because the furthest people away suffer from the greatest loss. So what we're going to do is come into here. Oh no, I'm going to need the modded version, because we're going to put a second shop in here. And what you want to do is when you're planning these shops is you don't want to min-max it out to the point where you go, and what you want is for this to be overlapping what you've already got over here. So if I now put in, well, we'll just put in a mud road like that. If I come in here, just to show you, this virtually overlaps the whole town compared with this one. So this isn't about min-maxing, this is about an overlap. Now, what I am going to do is, I think these have got reasonable meat stores, but I am going to put a small warehouse on here as well. Come here. I think that road's tempting, but it's not close enough. So we're going to put you there. And we're going to put a road there. And what we're going to do is bring up the Stilton cruise. Oops, can't put that. Okay, we're going to set this to high priority. And we'll try and get this store operational as quickly as possible. The one thing I do want to check is, because I've got a direct connection here, I think I'm going to bring in... I'll bring in 3. So we're going to need to try and get that built. Now, the third one is probably the more dramatic of this, and it is an indirect consequence of here. That is over here. If I show you the happiness in here. Now, this one, the happiness is recovering relatively easy, but you can see the happiness is down to 66%. It did drop to... in some places down to 50%. Now, what caused this, and this is what is a more direct reason why happiness is falling, and that comes down to the heating plant. And that was down to the fact that this population here, I was actually sending up buses from here to the heating plant, and that caused the heating plant to be erratic at first, and then it shut down. And what that meant was there was no heating in this area. And of course, and heating is the second big factor after food, where immediate impact on your economy in winter. If your residents are cold, they will disappear very, very quickly. Now, the fix was pretty quick, but it's also worth remembering that if you miss something like this, the impact is very quick as well. This dropped down from a very good happiness to a very fairly low happiness within about a month or two. But more importantly is once the heating was fixed, it started to return. But same problem as we had over there. We got a bit of an overflow. So what I'm doing is putting in a contingency here. It says no goods to sell. So what we got to do now is come into here. And we got the connection here. Unload food, clothes, electronics. We need to put a limit on. I think at the moment we'll just keep it simple, and I'll sort it out later on. Probably need put 12 there. We'll get a little bit more food, a little bit more clothes. What is the delivery percentage here? Yeah, we'll set that to 50%. Now, at the moment, we can't deliver meat because this is not ready. It's also, this is out of range of the power capability. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to deliver the meat directly. And we'll have to set you to, so it's 60%. The other thing I want to check is, okay, we've got plenty of trucks sat here doing nothing. So, and then, while this is not so important, but what it means is that when this store here goes into its repair mode and we dropped it, so what was that? Yeah, too many criminals. Let's see. So this message here is partly my own fault, is I was ignoring this, and that's why I've got myself in the situation that I am in. And of course, happiness is too low. So we're going to have a whole crop of these now for a little while to get things going. Now, I've just listed 3 ways to crash your happiness. I can guarantee you that there's all sorts of ways that this game can mess you up. That kind of brings this section to the end, about 3 ways that you can actually crash your happiness. Now, I can tell you from experience that there's a lot more other ways that you can do this as well, big time. And this game has this because of the subtle interaction between different parameters and the immediate impact, that this is something that you can get caught out with, and it's worth paying attention to, because if you don't, I can guarantee you that you will have almost occasionally major population crashes. In fact, if I kind of show you here, if we push this back, and there is the consequence of the disaster there. You can see we were running a population of just on over 110,000. In fact, we were up there and we dropped right down to 109. So luckily we only lost 1,000, but more importantly, because we had loads of over 21s, we didn't actually lose population. Because another consequence of, like say in this situation, is the buildings start to empty out. But if the buildings start to empty out, what can happen then is that your other services start to fall apart, and then that can lead to other consequences with respect to how can you put it, your overall services in an area. So like your medical services could fail, your culture, everything, and things can fall apart incredibly quickly. That is something, so hopefully that's been useful. Any questions, feel free to chuck it in the comments. So that's not just an overview on how happiness crashes, but it also hopefully explains why doing tutorials for this game is so difficult, because unless you can show people the scenarios, trying to explain it is just confusing. I know that from personal experience. When I learned the game, I just realized that these are a waste of time. I'm just going to get rid of these. They're not necessary. It'll take a lot to get in and build this. So what I want to talk about now, before we get down to things, is I've come up with a strategy, because we've got a lot of building here, and you can see that the actual rail track is being laid quite quickly. What I want to do is try and get this area online ASAP, so that we can get concrete and asphalt in here, because I think it's the concrete in that's holding things back. Also, what I want to do eventually is start getting resources into here. And I have actually planned a major construction office. Now, long term, this is going to be the building maintenance repair here, because this one down here is set to 3,500. So this will overlap here, but more importantly, it will overlap this one. And then this one will be the maintenance building there. I'm just going to check the traffic jam, because there shouldn't be a traffic jam. It's only maintenance. Again, this is another way that happiness can be degraded. If this building was fundamental, say, to food delivery, and you've got a truck here doing repairs. Now, this is specific to mods, but what can happen is this can cause enough of a delay that will then start to have an immediate impact on your delivery systems, which then reduces food, which then reduces happiness, and we end up with a little bit of a okay. So we've now got this here. I need police. I'm just gonna buy them, to be honest. I'm gonna 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Get them in here, hopefully, because these will not start patrolling unless they get out there, and we need to get the police into here as fast as possible. I'm not 100% sure that that's going to be enough, but we'll give it a go to begin with. So we got this in here. I saw a message flash up for train waiting too long. That's okay. What's going on here? What is going on here? We've got a train there. You shouldn't be queuing up here. We don't have a signal problem. Yes, we do. Haha. I didn't finish off my signals. Okay. See, it's simple mistakes like this that cause all sorts of problems. You know, you think you've got it all cracked, and then you've got a very, very simple mistake like that. In fact, I think what I am going to do is... Yeah, so I built a complex network here. And this guy going here. And you can see the impact. That again, a simple mistake, and this game will punish you. Not that I'm trying to put you off playing the game, but it's a very complex game. I've been playing this game since it was first went into early access, and one kind of way that kind of how I was able to extend my knowledge is with this game and learn it is that when I first played the game, obviously the game was a lot simpler because it went into early access, and I've had the opportunity, like several other players, to actually learn all these fairly complex mechanics as they were added as part of the early release schedule. But of course, that doesn't help anyone who comes along and wants to play it now. Now, before we get up to the main core of what we want to do, I just want to show you what's going on in this area. I'm kind of producing waste trucks. We've got, what I've been doing is producing kind of random selections of kind of smaller vehicles, fire trucks, I think ambulances. I think I've got over here, I'm producing police cars. Yes, I know my happiness is too low. Here were, oh, they produce, what I want is police cars. Let me just see, I think I've got the, okay, we haven't got the police car. We got Severa police here. Can't remember what is my police car I've got here. Okay, we're using this police car here to produce this. Now, what I will say about this mod here is the fact that if I go to personal cars and I click on here, this is different from a police car. So what I've got here is I can make ordinary private cars and also police cars. I kind of think that maybe I need to distinguish. The trouble is that these are actually used by the security police. I think what we'll do is, let me just see if I come in here and select personal cars, and I think we, wow, not actually sure why all these are listed as personal cars. Got tanks. What you'll see here is the Tavera doesn't show up as a personal car, but it does over here. Let me just see if I can see it. Z11. Is it 1102? And this is where the game gets a bit confused. So we can replace these automatically, but I don't really want to do that. So I think what we're going to do is, I don't want a prison bus, I want a personal car. We're going to have orthodox or official vehicles. What are we going to have? Warburg. I think we're going to go with the T. I think was it the T613. We're going to kind of make that isn't official because that will overlap with the thingies. And then if I go into here, personal car, just want to check. Oh, it's the 603. Why is that the 603? Did I buy the wrong one? I mean, personal car templates are pretty cheap. So, turn you off there. Come here. Apologies, I'm getting a bit distracted, but what I'm trying to do is, yeah, it's only £3 million rubles. Anyway, so that is the current situation. Now, what I want to do up here, this is where we're going to be for the rest of this part, is I want to finish off planning the metro. And at the same time, what I want to do is kind of plan the town. Now, I've got an idea for the town itself. In fact, we don't need this road kind of grid thingy here now. I can go. Because what I want to do is create a little bit of a, you could say, a linear city here. First thing I want to do, this is because I want to get the distances right a little bit, is we're going to get the heating plant. Where's the, and we've got now this isn't the final thing. Is what I'm doing is trying to get, well, that goes a lot further, so that we don't have any problem with heating in this area or running the heating plant. See, this stops short there. I want to run this one into, yeah, so this stops short a bit as well. And then I want to run up over here and up over here. So what we've got here is, this is the kind of range of my town. If we come out here, you can see the little white dots here. Now, what I want is 3 metro stations along here somewhere, because I've got an idea based on something I did a very long time ago. I built, it was my first metro city, as when metro was first introduced. What I've discovered is that, how can you put it, is that when you're running a circular metro, you want your population concentrations on each side. Say, for example, we're going to need a big concentration of workforce here who will catch the metro going that way, and then we will also want a fairly big concentration here, and then in the center, which will be about here, you want a kind of your area where your service workers are going to be. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to put in a metro station here. Now, I think the biggest metro station we've got is this one here. And this is a metro. I think if we put you there, slightly angled around that way, because where's the other lines? Yeah, the other lines are going up over there. So if I put you about there, actually we'll just put you square like that. Now what I want is I come here and I want to measure roughly 600, about 600. Now 600 meters means that if I put a concentration of workforce here, they won't walk up to here, wherever it is here, to get where they're going. So, oops, I've lost the marker point, because I don't want to make the mistake I made in Stilton. I think if we get to about there, but I want to kind of come in a little bit. So we'll put the next metro. I'll put you about there, but I want you curving in now towards the aluminium plant. So I'll put you maybe back a little bit. The dots, I know you probably can't see the dots for the 600 meters. They're just there. Cancel that. And then what we're going to do is measure again this way. And we're, see, the metro line is about here. We're probably talking about curving up in that direction. That's the extent of the heating plant. So we come you in here. We could probably come in a little bit closer because we'll be further away from the pollution center. Now, what I could do, if necessary, is actually, how can you put it? I can put in the a tram network to supplement the metro system. So we've now got our 3 main stations in here somewhere, if I can find them. There we are. Now, what I will do now is we don't need the heating plants because that was spurious, but they can go. Now, with these underground stations here, you've got to be a bit careful because these have got no surface contacts. If I come to the surface, you'll see that we got a road. What I will do to make it a bit easier to see them is I'll put the road connections in. Like, actually, what I will do, and what I'll do is I'll actually put in, okay, that's now gone that way. Let's remove the roads. I want them to stand out, not go into build mode over the top. So I can actually find them. Because I put the mud road in, the game did it. This gives me a tag level. So now if I get rid of that. Train waiting too long. Okay, we've got to keep an eye on our trains here. Okay, where's your problem? Okay, this guy's coming back this way. Okay, let me just speed this up, see if he can, well, we can speed up even faster by going Control H. Because the trouble is, these guys are possibly backing up. Get them, just make sure they clear. Right, this guy is building in here. What I'm trying to do is electrify the line up to here so that we can get the necessaries in here. Let me just see. These guys will go pushing this way. You're gonna push in this way. Nice thing about these trains is they will do very long runs. So here probably lay the majority of this track in a single pass. It's one of the reasons why I like them. The downside is they're slightly longer. He's run into a signal. They do this sometimes. Tell him to ignore the signal. And he will go through here and they will get that out of the way. Okay, back to where we are. We've now got this tagged. Now, what you've got to do before you put any track in, because like I was saying, you've got a road connection on the top, but the real benefit of these is the end connections here. But you've got to put these in first because the tracks can be a little bit sensitive. And if you don't put these in first, what will happen is you lay a lot of track, and then what will happen is the you won't be able to put these in, and these are very important because these will extend the range of these underground ones. It's one of the reasons why I'm actually using these. Okay, where's the other one? There's another one just over here. So we're just going to go around and put. There's also, if you notice here, that these have got side connections. So, and these side connections are actually underground. So what you could do if you wanted to is you could do something like that and then run a side connection out. But I will warn you that that can have problems with respect to the actual underground tunnels. This is the reason why I'm putting the metro in first, because we got, let's see, so that one's there, that one's there, that one's there, and we need to do this one as well. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to see which way round this actually is. And we're gonna come there, put one there. Of course, you can push these out further should you need them, but I wouldn't recommend pushing them out too far. Okay, this is the wrong way around. If you push them out too far, it can have consequences to your actual town plans. All right, we're just going to put you there. You've got there, okay. So we've now got these here. And we've got this connection here. So the next thing we're going to do is actually do the connections between these three. So what we're going to do now is hook up, find the metro tunnel. I find it easier just to let the game find its own path. Yes, okay. And then what you will need to do is come out and separate a little bit like that. And then we're going to have to come out like, oops, didn't mean to do that. This one's going to need to come in at an angle. Needless to say, this is going to need a lot of tunneling. Right, we're going to have to come off there. So we've now got the tunnel connection there, so that's all going to disappear. But what I will do, again, I strongly recommend you do this just to make sure you've got the connections in the tunnels themselves, because there's nothing worse than spending time excavating a tunnel and then finding out that you haven't got it. Now, the tunnel connection we want is over here. The other thing I've also done up here is I've put these things in. These are the underground power lines. Now the next thing we're going to need to do is we've got to put in some underground end stations as well. So we're going to find the end stations. You get ones on the surface and ones on the but what I want on this side is that is there. I'm going to use the the underground one here, and we'll just put you there, and then we're just going to hook you up. Now this connection is going to be completely underground. Oops, what happened there? Because I don't want any surface track here, because I want this area in the center, this like kind of neutral ground. Actually, how can you put it, for other things that I may need, especially like the rail connections and stuff like that. So we're gonna, okay, we'll just connect you up. I think this is a, that's there, that's there, that's there. And of course now I've selected it. Lost it. Where's it gone? There it is. So there's our end connection there. Now round here is going to be a bit difficult because this is the side where we've got to come above the surface to be able to how can you put it, make our rail connection so that we can actually build it. Now the connection here is over there. I'm going to come here. Okay, we need to kind of curve around a bit there. I think I will put this one underground as well. But I'm gonna have to put it in. Actually, I could go above ground just to make it a little bit easier. Right, so I think what we're going to do now is we need to come above ground. Let me just come here. We're aiming for there. So what I'm going to do is come here. We're going to hook up you there. I'm going to come out a short distance from there to there. And then what you got to do is to get to the surface is you just got to press E. And what you'll find is that a little shadow tunnel appears above the tunnel like that. And then what this one will come up here. Ah, great. I'll have to remove you and do it again. What this does is it brings this above to the surface. And then what we're going to need is to come. Now I've got a marker there. We're going to come away. Straight first, like that. Then we're going to curve that way. And again, I'm just going to press E. Come to the surface. Oops. Yeah, I think the problem now is that this is coming in a little bit too sharp. Let me just, we'll just do this again. We may have to come out. It's gonna. I can trim you back a little bit like that. Try again. And what we'll do is we'll turn relatively sharp out of the there. Actually, we'll go dead straight. Press. Actually, I'm going to come a little bit further away. Press F4 again. Get the connection there. Yeah. There's the problem. Okay, let me just. Yeah, coming to the surface when you've got the ground's a little bit not quite so level can be a problem. So what we're going to need to do is get clear of that. So if we come to there, then press the E key there. That's it. So we've now got here, we're not really well lined up, but I think we'll be okay. And then the first thing we're going to need is ground level metro station. So we can put you about there. That can actually help line up that bit there. And of course we're going to need metro track. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run a long stretch of metro. So this is surface metro. So let's accept that. Let's make sure it's all connected up. Kind of get rid of view. Make sure that's connected. So we've now got our run around here. Now, what we got to do next is just to kind of illustrate what we got to do. We come to Stilton here. Let's just get rid of the overlay. Don't need it. Get rid of that. What we got to do is build something like this. We've got to have a transition between the metro track and the ordinary track. We need a depot in order to set up the trains. So we come up back to here. What we got to do first is we've got to kind of run the track that way. So what we need is the metro track come off like that, and we'll just run back that way a little bit. And we've got to come here. Now, next thing we need is a ordinary train depot. We can put you there. And then we connect in the metro track on this side. And then what we got to do is put normal track out this side. We can now, construction trains will not pass through a depot, so what we've got to do now is come off like that. Now this little length of track we're building here is just for the construction trains. Now if I come here to here, now you can join normal track to here, but what you'll see is you'll get a message that says only track building trains can move on metro to rail crossings. So this is exclusively for the actual construction trains, so you can't run normal trains through here. And what that will do, so we'll just accept that, and what that will, we got a connector there, just remove you. See, there's a potential problem there. Did you want to make sure you get rid of all those things, because it can cause problems when you're messing about. So that's now our connector, and of course where is our track there? So that's kind of coming out that way. We got to run over and connect that. I think what I will do, I'm aware that I'm running out of time, is we're going to need a, where is it? It's over there. Actually, we'll trim that road back. I don't need the road sticking out that much. And what we'll do is we'll run a direct line there. Now this line isn't going to be a complete waste. Connect you up there, remove you. The reason this line's not going to be a complete waste is the fact that what we're going to have to do is, if I come in here and show you pipelines, if this is going to operate as an airport, we're going to have to bring fuel in. So what we're going to need here is a fuel drop-off line, but I'm going over time on this video, so what I'm going to do is just finish up with a round off just to show you what we've got going here. And you well, it's not completely out of control, but it's not as good as it should be. Let me just see. How's the other? Yeah, this one's. We may need another police station. Let me just go down. Do we have another courthouse operational? Have we built it? Whoops, gone too far. We're going to have to try and push this to get this operational. I think what I'm going to do, guys, now is I want to show you this as part of this video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the video here. I'm just going to play on off camera, and then we'll show you this courthouse once it's actually finished. It shouldn't take that long to finish. So I'll see you once that is actually finished and ready to go. Okay, welcome back. We've now finished this courthouse here. You can see that the cases are now already starting to pile in. Hopefully this will start to clear the backlog of our criminal thing. And just as a final update, just to give you here, we're still building this store here. And just to show you the fact that we are several months on and we still got this problem here. And this is where I was saying is the problem started with the maintenance, but where this will take a very long time to get ahead, if it ever does, because you can, well, see the happiness is creeping up very, very slowly, but we've still got bad happy. Oh no, it's not too bad there. We've still got only 48% happiness here. What I've done here is I've put in another accommodation block on the end here. One thing I've just realized, which I do need to put in, is a garbage collection. It'd be nice to put it on that side, because what's going to happen is that when this store's built, it's going to very quickly overload its own internal garbage. So we do need that. Okay, no, that don't really want to build that. It's too close to the building. I don't want to mess around with kind of land trucks. What I will do is put it on this side. Actually, what I could be able to do is utilize these guys. Okay, put you on there as well to help. What I've done is I've switched off the auto detect on this side. Up here, things are kind of back under control. I kind of show you the happiness here. It's not brilliant, but it's building back up slowly, because that now we've got a spread the load with respect here. We've got meat coming in, and we are now feeding that population. And just a final update before we finish. We're still building this courthouse here, but you can see that I don't think we're going to be able to get ahead of the curve there. We've also got a garbage health risk, which is degrading. Again, this is the subtle thing. When people are ill, it reduces the productivity. I don't know if this has got... it says the productivity is 100%, but people are not being healthy. So we are going to need to put in... Actually, I can just tuck you on this corner here. I need another garbage dump. Yeah, get you guys to build that. I think what I will do is I'm going to put another courthouse in. Not courthouse, police station in. I seriously doubt that these two together are going to be able to solve this. The crime here is just so bad. So what I'm going to do, and we can always switch it off afterwards. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to put another police station in. Okay, we just only need a quick mud road there. And we'll just build that, and hopefully the combined effort. And then what can happen is once the crime is under control, we can switch off one of the police stations and just leave it with the two. I've also put in a loyalty monument. Anyway, this is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Hope you found it interesting. And until next time, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.